I think we were all surprised at the role that the price of eggs had in our most recent election. How could such a simple economic question be the driving force behind our election results? Well, it's really not a simple economic question, and it never really has been. Eggs have been part of our diet since before the ancient Romans and Greeks, likely as part of our domestication of poultry. They have been villainized for their saturated fat and cholesterol content and praised as a great source of protein and micronutrients. And up until recently, they have always been a fairly affordable food source. So why are they so expensive right now? Well, a couple obvious reasons. Inflation, which is affecting the cost of everything, and the avian flu, which is specifically impacting the egg and poultry industry. But my question is, why have eggs always been so cheap? In 1949, eggs were about 70 cents. In 1975, they were 77 cents. And it wasn't until 1984 that the cost of a dozen eggs reached $1. And it's been vacillating between $1 and $2 for the last 2 to 3 decades. The motivation in the egg industry is the same motivation as every other food company. It's that bottom line. So how has the egg industry kept that bottom line so low for so long? Buckle up, friends, it's going to get ugly. We have selectively bred a great breed for laying hens. But these laying hens are not necessarily good for meat, and roosters are not necessarily very good for laying eggs. So these male chicks, the common practice in the field is to cull these male baby chicks through asphyxiation or more commonly through grinding. I know, poor roosters, it is really hard to be discriminated against just because of your sex. But as these hens get older, they're placed into something called battery cages, which were introduced in about 1940s with several other hens. They have about the size of a piece of paper for their area, and this close proximity can lead to the spread of zoonotic diseases like the avian flu, but also leads to aggression and even cannibalism. Because of this, many egg farmers will debeak their chicken to reduce that aggression. You may choose to do cage-free or free-range eggs, but I'm going to tell you that the regulations on those are suspect at best. Cage-free means they are not in those battery cages, but it doesn't indicate anything about overcrowding. In fact, the regulation is 25 hens per square meter, which looks about like this. Yep. Free range means at some point these hens are exposed to the outdoors with really no regulation about how or how much. Now, the USDA is in charge of regulating the ethical treatment of animals, but these practices are not considered unethical. They are considered standard practices for the industry. And we allow these practices because we want to keep the cost of eggs cheap. Our regulating bodies tend to favor the bottom line of corporations over human health, the ethical treatment of animals, or economic justice. Our food system is complicated, and when we ask simplistic questions like why are eggs so expensive, we're ignoring that complexity and the variety of factors that influence our cost of food. What we should be asking is how do we create a more just, equitable, and humane food system and society? Start by asking better questions. Learn to investigate. Learn to think for yourself. Learn about ethics and practice compassion. Learn about history so that we don't repeat it or even rhyme with it. And as for eggs, be willing to pay more for small scale, be willing to pay for local, or better yet, reduce your intake of animal products as a whole. Thank you.